Hi, everyone. Welcome to this virtual village of women gathered here from all over the world to share their stories of birth and transition into motherhood as a means to empower each other through storytelling. I'm Bibi Lorenzetti, and I'm here with Maria Margolies today. Thank you, Maria, for being here with us. Maria is an amazing yoga teacher and health coach, and I'm going to let you best introduce yourself. So please tell us where you're from and how you became and just your journey into pregnancy and motherhood.
Wow, it's a long story. How long do you have? Okay, well, I'm from Colombia originally. I've been living away from Colombia for over 20 years. I'm already 41. And I've been teaching yoga for over 10 years and practicing and studying yoga and in the spiritual path for over 20 years. So wow. I'm also a health coach, certified health coach. And yeah, I know I'm old.
No, you're not.
And and well, my journey as a mother, where to start? I became a mother pretty early.
Was that something that you wanted to do? Like, was that a dream of yours?
No. Well, no.
Okay.
I think I definitely wanted to be a mother at some point. Okay. But I didn't really plan it, or it was complicated. I didn't really plan it. I was kind of maybe trying to be a mom, and then I have some relationships complications, so I kind of put that on hold for a while, and then I got pregnant. So a while
as life goes.
Exactly. So that was kind of it just happened. I was kind of like also in the top of my, let's say, I don't know if you can call it yoga career, but like yoga practice. I was very advanced in my practice. I was kind of had a very single focus on where I wanted to go with that and teaching. And I feel like that definitely was kind of like disrupted everything. Obviously in my life, but so I got pregnant when I was 27.
30s? Oh, 27. Okay.
I got pregnant when I was 27, and I was living in New York after being married for 8 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that you were married for 8 years when you got pregnant. Okay. So you got pregnant, and was that since you were seeking for your own life and you were very kind of engaged with your life? How was that for you when you realized you were pregnant?
I was really happy. Actually.
Okay, great.
I'm very impulsive, emotional person, so I'm not a planner, so I never really plan much. I do have like ideas and dreams and focus and like a direction, but I like to also be very open to trusting and to kind of being open to what comes up and opens up. And I think in my whole life I've been like that, and great things have happened. So it kind of it was really happy. I felt really excited and really happy, and I didn't think it through. Which that's kind of how I always do my life. I think after, and then I'm like, oh shit, it's intense. Like I didn't really think this is, like I got married like that, like, oh yeah, it sounds fun. And then you're like, oh shit, I'm married. And then I realized what that meant. So no, but I was really happy. I remember being like extremely happy, and so was my partner. So it was like a really good thing for us.
And how was the pregnancy for you, since you were so advanced in your yoga practice? How was the body changing and the practice changing?
Pregnancy was amazing. I loved being pregnant. I tell this story to like a lot of my friends, and I was like, what? Like people hate being pregnant, and like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, like I was like my favorite time. I remember being the happiest I've ever been, the nicest I've ever been. Like I was like really nice, like people, like I was just like extremely full of joy and energy. And I was really tired at the beginning of the first 3 months. Honestly, I had to sleep a lot. And I was really privileged and, had the opportunity that I wasn't working really. So I had the time to be able to sleep a lot and take care of myself, have a lot of nourishment and really listen to my body and when I needed. I didn't stop practicing the whole time. I felt that, like always, that was kind of like my way of grounding and staying, all the things, like really. So I practiced like until the day before I gave birth. I was practicing second series and some of thirds. People were like, oh my God, and I was, you have to modify, but I was really young too. So I felt like my body was changing, but it was like, it was amazing because, the practice with Ashtanga is like very restrictive and you can only do this. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, this is awesome. So I was like doing all the things that I was never allowed to do, at Eddie's, and like all the poses and, being creative and really letting my body guide my practice and how I wanted to move. And that was really freeing. It was amazing. So it was really nice. And I was really flexible. Obviously, like you get like more flexible also when you're pregnant. So I was doing, modifying, but also just pretty much doing a very advanced practice. That was really satisfying. And I had time, I practiced for 2 hours. It was great. And I didn't have any morning sickness. I didn't feel sick at all. I just felt really good all the time. I didn't really get that big. It was just kind of like here. So I was comfortable. And I really enjoyed the process.
That's really
changing.
Great. I love that even though it was a surprise, you were just accepting of it and then enjoying of it. Because I feel like that's hard for most people if it's not planned. That's a lot to take on and to just go with the flow. So that's great. And
I'm good at that.
That's a good thing to have, a good skill to have.
I'm very adaptable and flexible. Yeah.
So then how long ago was this?
So he's 13 now.
Okay.
So almost 14 years.
Do you recall your wishes for your birth? I mean, I'm sure you do, but did you have like a specific preparation that you did? Did you have wishes going into the birth of how you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I had a lot. I wanted to have a natural birth. Like I was totally sure that was the way I wanted to do it. I wish I had a home. I wanted to have a home birth. But I had to compromise with my partner. He wasn't very comfortable with that. So I had to have him in a birthing center, which was good. Was great actually. And I think like for me what was really important was that I really dove into like knowledge and learning all about birth, and like I read all the books, from like the midwife and like this and that, and I was just kind of like, is that also how I am? I love to study and learn. So I feel like the best way to like tackle fear, it's just, you have fear because you have unknown, right? Like a lot of pregnant women, I feel like they're like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? Like, is it going to be painful? Like, and for me, it was like, okay, I have those fears too. But then it's like, okay, if I like learn about it and I know all the steps and I know everything that I can know about it, I know how to do it. And, I don't have, fear. I can just kind of surrender to that and like really be comfortable. So I prepared a lot. I went to birthing classes. I had a doula.
You did have a doula.
And I read all the books. Yeah, I had an amazing doula. I wouldn't do it. I mean, I would recommend every woman to have a doula, and that was like a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
So I had that vision of having a natural birth, and I did end up having it. So I had a doctor, which she was amazing because she was like the head of the birthing center St. Luke's. It was attached to the hospital.
Yeah,
if
I remember that.
Happens, you kind of have the hospital there, so you kind of people feel safe. But when I got there, it was full.
Oh.
So they were like, oh no, you have to go into like the normal hospital. I don't know how you call it, where the women go birth.
Yeah, they have the
birth,
regular,
and where they put you in a
maternity
bed.
center, right?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, no way. Like, I cannot do that. I'm not going to lay down. That's crazy, you know, because that's like the worst thing you can do for being able to have a natural birth. So I was like freaking out and crying. And I was like, no. And then I was there, and then like they make me like, you know, stay in the bed, and they're like women like screaming everywhere. And I was like, this is crazy. And then so my doctor talked to the people, and they were like, okay, you have to let her walk. So I was walking all around the hospital.
She's gonna take down the walls.
So I had to walk. So I did that, and then finally they found me a room, and I was able to go into the room.
So you managed to go into the room that you So before we go into that part, what was it like for you? So you did all the reading of the books, but was there a moment where you kind of paused that and just spent time going inwards, or you feel like, or did you read all the way until the end, and whenever the time came, you just, because I know that a lot of women, they'll take that last time to just kind of like then go inwards and connect, but maybe you were doing that throughout because you had the time to do that.
Yeah, I think I was doing that all the time, you know. I was really trying to process and doing a lot of like meditation and a lot of my yoga practice, which was really in connecting with the baby and you know, things.
So there was a lot of embodying that mental knowledge that you were reading. Yeah. And so whenever your labor began, what was it like for you? What memories do you keep of that?
It was great. People think I'm crazy. I think it was great. I actually went into labor. So the day before, I went into labor the day before my due date. So I had like no kind of symptoms and everything. And my partner was, my husband at the time, was like, oh, you're not going to give birth. You know, like he's like, you're going to be late, all this stuff. And I was like, what? So I went for a 7-hour walk the day before with my parents. We just walked the whole of New York. We're like walking and, you know, eating and hanging out. It was like summer. So it's like May. And then that night I went to bed and I was like, I'm having the baby tomorrow.
Oh, you knew?
And my husband was like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yeah. And then I woke up and I started having contractions. And then my husband
You woke
was
up
like,
in the morning or the middle of the night?
In the morning.
Oh, in the morning. Nice. So
it was very convenient.
Yeah.
That was the last time he let me sleep.
Nice. At least he gave you that last one time.
Yeah, thanks. Because that was like 5 years after. No more sleep. But that's another story. Yeah, so I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm having contractions. And then my husband was like, oh, I want to go to yoga. And I'm like, okay. I was like, you can go to yoga and I'll call you if I need you. So he went to yoga and I stayed with my parents, like doing like the labor at home until I got like contractions a little more closer so I can go to the birthing center. And then we got to the birthing center, we got lost. So I was like,
was the doula with you during the time that you were at home, or she joined at the birthing center? Do you remember
that? Actually, I think she joined at the birthing center. I don't remember her being at the apartment.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once I got into the room, I was pretty much the whole time in the tub.
Oh, nice. You had the tub.
Yeah. And I really wanted to have a water birth. So I really wanted to have him there. And so, yeah, it was like, I think like 14 hours in total.
Oh,
so
that was fast.
Yeah. So it was like pretty easy on the kind of easy. Yeah, I have some beautiful images of that, of just me in the tub and like, you know, my partner and my mom and my doula, just all of it, you know, surrounding me and holding space for me and giving me ice chips and, you know, all the things. And then I tried to have the baby in the tub, but then he wasn't coming out, and actually it wasn't legally you couldn't have it in the tub, but my doctor was like, well, we can always say like, oops, sorry. And it just happened, and I was like really trying for that, but then he didn't want to come out.
He didn't want to come in the water.
No. So she's like, at some point she was like, okay, you have to get out, and like we have to get the baby out. And so I had him sitting, like laying in the bed.
Okay. And do you remember, like, are there any sensations that you hold in your body from that time? Any, like if you remember that memory from like your body instead of your mind, is there anything of like either an image of yourself or a feeling, or like, is there anything that like your body remembers? There doesn't have to be. I just wonder like what's left after 13 years, of time.
I think there was a lot of power. I think that I felt it was a very empowering experience. I feel like for me, it was like I really connected with like all women in that moment, and that was kind of like my superpower, like how I was able to be like so totally surrender and be like, kind of connect with all my ancestors and be like, this is like, this is a moment of like why I'm here. And like, it was like a very powerful, empowering kind of embodiment of like all things, and like everything is connected. And like, I was like, it was kind of like a blurry thing, it was, like you're not even in your mind anymore. You're like so in it. Like, I don't remember pain,
Yeah.
Like, I just remember being in it completely, fully, like just so like, just, in this kind of moment that was so intense, but so, just very empowering, I think.
Yeah, I love to hear that from, I've interviewed all kinds of women and like different distances from their birth. And I find that it's so nice to hear, especially someone going into the birth, to know that that's what stays after time, that sensation of empowerment, the sensation of just like connection to other women. I feel like that's such a beautiful gift that birth and motherhood give us, of feeling all the other women, all the other mothers, all our lineage. So I love that you have that memory of it. And so then what do you remember of what's your son's name? I forget.
Montauk.
Right. Montauk, right?
Monty, yeah.
So when Monty came out of you, what do you remember of that, of like that first moment? What was that like for you? Do you remember?
I don't.
What do you remember
it's
of
like
that,
a lot.
of that time?
I think it's kind of very blurry, honestly.
Yeah.
I have like a lot of images that I see photos, and I feel like I have my memories connected to photos that I have from that moment. But I don't know, honestly, if I can be like, oh, I saw the baby and this was the love of my heart. Like, I don't really honestly remember.
But I like that. I like to hear this, because I think this is good for women to hear, because I feel like, no matter how your birth goes, there's, especially in the natural birth, literature, there's a lot that's put on like that moment right after. And I feel like when women don't have that moment, then they walk away feeling like they're doomed forever. And it's so refreshing to hear that, you had a wonderful experience. It was completely natural. And yet that moment is not what you hold after 13 years. Like, you probably had a wonderful moment, but that's not something that is so important, so I think it's really good for women to hear that no matter what happens, like, that's not the only thing that you have to remember. There's like so many other things. But I am interested about your recovery. So you have Monty, you go home. What was it like for you? Like that immediate, what do you remember of that time, like right after you gave birth, about, reconnecting with your body, for example?
Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. Do what you need to do.
Okay. Now they're babies. It was, I think that I was very kind of surrendered to all the changes, and I really embraced it. Like I embraced how my body changed. Like I loved having boobs, for example. Like I've never had boobs, and then like all of a sudden I was like this big breast, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I felt more sexy and like, in like a bigger body, and like, milk and like stains and like, I just kind of like really like just loved like all of those things, the messiness of
Okay.
the process. And like, I didn't like gain a lot of weight. So it was very easy. I was nursing. I didn't have much trouble nursing. I did get like some mastitis. How do you call
Mastitis,
it in
yeah.
English?
Oh, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit at the beginning. So that was really painful. But it wasn't like, it didn't really get that bad. So it was really easy for me to nurse, and I was nursing. I had a lot of milk, like my baby was huge. So I was like, I lost the weight really easily. I was like super skinny, actually the skinniest I've ever been. So I didn't really have like that kind of problem with like my body, and like I just really like accepted all of it, and then
Yeah.
very quickly recovered. I felt
And
like I was
but
very
what about
young,
like, well, yeah, you were very young. What about the strength? Like especially as a very physical person, how was, this body that had gone through labor and birth, how did it feel when you first started moving again? And how was your process of like rebuilding the strength
Yeah, I think that
and the connectivity maybe?
I didn't feel like that I lost much of that. I feel like I
Okay, great.
connected very quickly, and my body, like it's amazing, so it just like really recovered very easily. And I went
Yeah.
back to like my regular practice, like not my regular practice, but like practicing and moving right away. So
Okay.
I had help. So that was, easier for me because I had my parents, and I had a nanny. So I had time. So
Yeah.
I always prioritize my time, my
Yeah.
own time to be like sane, like I need this, you need to take this baby. I need my hour for myself. And I did that, so I slowly kind of started doing my yoga practice again. And I kind of like just felt, connected again. And it was very easy, honestly. I felt like
That's
my
great.
body kind of bounced back really quickly. And I didn't feel like I struggled with that. And I think because I
And
was very young, I think if
right,
I had another one now, it's probably going to be
it'd be
very
a little
different.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what about well, maybe you didn't experience this either, but you had mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that you were very kind of like, you knew where you wanted to go with your practice and with your teaching and all these things. And so did you feel like having the baby then kind of changed that, or how was it to then for you to like find yourself in that path,
Yeah, I think that
or
was a little bit,
rebirth
yeah,
yourself?
I think there's definitely like a death, that happens when we give birth.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of letting go that I had to do, of a lot of ideas that I wanted, and that I kind of, that was kind of hard, of things that I had identified with and where I wanted to be at, and like, oh my god, I wanted to be done with the third series at this moment. And that was all those plans. It sounds silly, but that was something that was really important to me at the time.
Yeah.
And that plan went on the drain, and I had to take my time and be a mom. So I had to raise a baby, and so that took most of my attention. And I think it was hard to do that transition of like letting go. And I think there's moments when you feel a little bit, or I felt a little bit not like angry, but kind of like frustrated, and like and like hard to like surrender to like that process of like, oh, now I'm
Yeah.
a mom. And and there's so many ways we have to adapt and let go of so many things that
Yeah.
at the end is like, it works out great, but in the moment it's hard.
Yeah. And
You're
especially I
like,
feel like if you're like a very independent person that loves to like travel around and move, there's a lot of scheduling and routine giving for a child. So I can only imagine. Yeah.
I was never really like that kind of mom with like routine and scheduling. I mean, I left for India when I was like 8. My baby was a year and a half, and we were like sleeping in like airport floors, and I was there for like 3 months on my own in Mysore and traveling. And I kind of like also like I wanted the baby to adapt to me as opposed to just me adapting to the baby. And that kind of parent that's like, oh, you have to sleep at this time and I have to be home and everyone has to be quiet. And like, I'm like, there's a good thing and a bad thing, right? He co-slept with me, and so it was very draining in that way. He didn't really sleep for like the first 5 years, basically.
Oh wow.
So
how did you manage to be a person for 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard. So, but again, I had time and I was young. So, but those were the things that I had to pay for, because I was like, I don't need a schedule, I don't need this. So we're just kind of flow and we travel and we go everywhere and we do these things. But I had to sacrifice other things for that too. And one of them was like, he didn't sleep until because he slept with me because I was single then. So I got separated when he was 1.5. Okay. So I pretty much started being a single mom since then. And kind of just, it was just him and I, and I was just kind of like carrying him everywhere and going to parties and he would sleep, like just kind of like being a little more, he was just adapting to me, and of course you have to adapt to him, but that was,
Well, you were giving up your sleep for him as well, aside from all the other things. So, but then he was with you most of the time?
Yeah, he would be with me most of the time. We co-parent, like every other weekend he'd be with his dad.
How did you parent by yourself? Like, now that I have a child, how did you do it by yourself?
I feel like a lot of the times it's easier because I don't know, like I see how couples struggle in the way, like there's a lot of different ideas, once a baby comes, there's a lot of like, that like you want this, you want that, you want to raise a baby, there's so many different ideas on how you were raised, and it comes a lot out when you have a baby that can be very like conflicting. But when you're just him and I, it was just kind of very easy in that way that we just kind of adapted to each other and like slept together and like did everything together. And like, it was kind of like one rule, one kind of mindset. And I mean, it was really hard. I had help also, like I had babysitters, and
because I would imagine, like, I know that for myself, I have a partner and we share full responsibility of the child, but like I feel like for me that after a couple of hours of just being with him, I'm like, I need like space for me. So
it's exhausting. I mean, I don't really know how the full-time parents do it, I have to say. I feel like sometimes, but then I also have my break. So he would go with his dad for a weekend. Okay. And then I had a whole weekend for myself, which is, I think, very healthy, because I was being able to be something rather other than a mother all the time, but I could just be myself.
But how this is really good. I haven't had a single parent on here yet, so I think this is very good for women that are navigating that. So how was it for you do you remember, like, whenever he would leave you, how was that?
I loved it.
So there was no sense of like worrying or like?
No.
Okay.
I think, a lot of people are like, oh my God, how can you be without him for like, and I'm like, I love it. I think it's, I am very free spirit. I'm very independent. And for me, like, also keeping my identity was very important. Yeah. And you froze.
Oh, am I back? Sorry, I think, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, my internet is on and off. Am I back?
Oh, now you're back. Yeah, okay. So for me, like, keeping my identity was really important. as a, who am I? I'm not just a mother. I didn't just want to be a mother, and I think that I didn't want to lose myself in that, label. And I wanted to keep my own identity, like all these things. And I think a lot of parents lose that a lot. And then, life goes on, and then the kids leave, and then they're like, oh shit, like, what did I do in my life? That's all now I have nothing. And so for me, it was, since we started doing that since he was very little, I didn't have that separation, like anxiety or anything. I was just kind of like really happy to have help, and like, here's the baby. And I was like, bye. It was like, there you go, good luck. And I was like, and yeah, I don't want to feel bad, like feeling that way, but yeah, that's how I feel. And I think it was very healthy for me. And
I think
I was
really
able to
good and inspiring for people to hear. Give me 1 second. Lauren, you can just go in. Sorry, I'm working. My babysitter's here. She's like calling.
Oh.
Talking about personal space and independence. You can just go inside the house. So I feel like it's very empowering to hear that, because I know that, some women feel like I'm one of those people that I really like my independence, but it's hard for me to take it. So it's really inspiring to see and hear women like you that are very like, you give it your all, but then this is me, and this is the boundary. And it's so healthy, I think, as a mother, to learn how to do that, even for ourselves, but also for our children, to know that like mommy has boundaries and has a persona outside of this. So that's wonderful. And do you feel like Monty from the beginning, like he understood that? Did I freeze?
I think, you're a little laggy. I think he definitely suffered from the separation, and because he was so little, and for him, like understanding, he didn't have the language, he didn't have the emotional, obviously, maturity to communicate or to process. But he still, obviously, they still feel, and they're like, sponges, and they're learning. They just can't express it, right? So I think he was a tough baby. He was really a really hard baby. I mean, I was crying a lot. And he had a crazy, really, really intense tantrums, really crazy tantrums. And I think that was his way of like, having anxiety, and maybe a separation, and just like not understanding why your parents are not together, and living different places. I think that definitely can affect a human. And but that was like no choice. And he's fine now. He's like an incredible human being, and we worked through that. But it was definitely really difficult. And yeah, now, I mean, we have like an incredible connection, and like we have amazing community. We have a really amazing intimate relationship also, I think, because it's just the two of us, but it definitely took time. And I think he we all suffered for that. And yeah.
Did you have any postpartum stuff that you dealt with, or you were fine?
No, I think my ex-husband thinks I did, but
you what?
I think my ex-husband thinks I did, but no, I didn't.
That's good. That's great. Good for you. That stuff can be gnarly. Yeah. So what do you feel
I mean,
like?
I think I always had.
Go ahead. You always had what?
No, I think like we have a lot of tools, so in our toolbox to deal with all this stuff. So I think I was lucky not to really feel any of those things. But
that's great.
I had to deal with divorce and
that's a lot. What do you think? Being a mother, and now with a 13-year-old. What do you think is, what have you learned from motherhood, and how do you feel like it informs your everyday, identity? I mean, I know that is part of your identity, but how do you feel like knowing that you have a child changes you every day?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely gives me purpose and gets me out of bed every day. And it's just something that, yeah, that I love, I love being able to be a mother, and I love to have an amazing relationship with my child and being able to see him grow. It's like the most satisfying, hard also thing, like we've gone through so much and
Yeah.
so little time, I guess, still 13 years. And just to see him change and become the amazing human that he is, and see how he's just so much better than I am, and like how they take and absorb from you, and they just kind of like create their own personality, and also like holding space for him to be himself. And it's just like an unlearning, like I'm just like all day like learning, apart from like learning from him, because he's such a good teacher. He calls me out on all my shit, it's it's amazing. I mean, they're mirrors, right? Our kids.
Yeah,
So
I
really
see that even just
learn
now
from
that
them
he
so
can't
much.
even talk, that he's just like already showing me.
Yeah, and I'm learning more for myself, about myself now, I think, from like just with being with him, because he like mirrors everything. And then I'm like, oh shit, like I have to change that behavior, because right, because this is something that he's doing that I don't like. But why is he doing it? It's like, because he's doing it because he's mirroring me. And so you have to be, it's very tricky to parent, and it's like every day I feel like you're learning and unlearning and trying to, just trying to figure it out, because no one told us, it's like there's no manual.
And I would imagine that there's a lot of trust that has to happen as a mother, like once they become more independent. I start to see it in Indy and my son, now that he's walking and starting to make little decisions for himself. There's this enormous amount of trust that you have to give them, that they're gonna figure it out. And that's, I would imagine that it keeps getting more complex as you move through the years, the amount of trust that you have to just give out and be like,
yeah, they say little children, little problems, big children, big problems.
So in terms of, I have a curiosity about food, because you're such a food guru, a nutrition guru. I love all this stuff. Oh, sorry. There's like a bit of a storm up here again, so my internet is in and out. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Huh? Are you there now? Maria? Hi.
Wait, you're frozen.
Okay, let me see if I can. There's a bit of a storm.
You sound like a robot. I can't hear you, babe.
Okay, let me see if I take off my headset. And can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Wait,
Maria?
Now it's good. Oh, now I can't hear you.
Hi.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, there's a beginning of a storm up here again, so my internet is in and out, in and out. I'm really sorry. Okay. I'm gonna start recording again, and then I'm gonna stitch them together. Can you hear me? You can't hear me. Hold on.
Okay, now.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. You were kind of like, I heard you like a robot, like talking in slow motion.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a storm starting up here, so I think my internet's being affected, but I'll stitch it back together afterwards. I think it's still recording.
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, so I wanted to, before we close, I wanted to, since I know that your specialty is food, and you've had a juice bar and you do all kinds of amazing stuff with food, I'm really curious to hear if you could share a little bit of how it was for you to feed your son when he was little.
I think that you have I think that we have a lot of, well, I had a lot of ideas of how I wanted to have a baby, you know. I wanted to like, oh, everything's gonna be organic and everything's gonna be natural. I'm gonna use like, you know, cloth diapers and all this stuff. And like, I'm gonna make all the food and like, you know, I was gonna be super mom and like, like this perfect image of how, you know, and like quickly you realize that that's just not, you know, I wasn't super mom, I guess, and those standards that I had and ideas like I had. So I made a lot of his food at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, I made a lot of his food. I
did he eat it?
He did. He ate everything. He was a really good eater.
Okay, well that's great.
So yeah, I didn't really have any problems feeding him. I mean, he was a really big fat baby. He loved milk and food, and he was, I don't know if you remember, but he was a big Michelin, one of those like Michelin babies who like you can't see like any of his joints because he's so fat.
So you didn't have any issues giving him like vegetables, grains, legumes? He ate it all. That's great. You lost me again.
No, he ate everything. I raised him a vegetarian. Yeah. And he ate everything, and he was a pretty easy eater. Yeah. Okay.
And did you at some point
weird things, but
right.
Yeah.
So you said at the beginning you cooked a lot, and then you kind of let go of your extreme vision and you just kind of softened and let things happen as they needed to.
Yeah. 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 Kind of adapted. I think that was a lot. Yeah. You know, I kind of, you have to let go of all these like ideas, I think, at some point. I mean, not that I stopped, because I always cook anyways, and I mostly just cook all my food, but I became a little more flexible and kind of, I think I was less hard. I think
it's good to hear that, you know, and Monty has survived, and he's 13 and looks great. So it's good to hear for us new moms that, you know, that they figure it out, and that even if every meal is not the perfect meal, they do okay in life.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a really good eater now, and he's a vegetarian still, and he eats like,
oh, he's still vegetarian. That's great. Nice.
And he eats salads, and you know, I'm not a vegetarian anymore, but he is, and he's, you know, loves it, and he eats everything really. He's a really good eater. So, and he's super tall and athletic and strong, and you know, so he's doing pretty good.
Very good, very good. So Maria, to conclude this, what would you tell whoever is watching this? What do you think is something that is good to just remember as a mother going into motherhood, going into this journey?
I think that so many things. One thing is that other people have done it, and it's okay. Because I feel like when you're in it, you're like feel so alone, and you're like, oh my God, how am I gonna do all this? And you get super overwhelmed. And I'm always like, you know, there's been a million other mothers like that've done it. Like, it's not, you know, it doesn't have to be this overwhelming thing. I feel like you know, really important to just kind of trust yourself and trust the process, and surrender to it, and be, you know, and adapt and be flexible, and just kind of like not have those standards that just kind of like do you know, because I think there's a lot of standards and things that people are like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. Everyone has an idea of how you should have a birth, and how you should be pregnant, and how you should be a mom, and all these things, and everyone has their opinions, like they have their opinions about everything, right? And I think that you really need to connect with your own, and just trust your own, you know, knowledge and instincts, and do that. And that's going to be like the best that you can do, and not force, you know, not force or be so hard on yourself. I think it's like lots of love and compassion, and like, you know, flexibility, and, you know, being flexible to everything, and to change, you know, it's just kind of like allowing everything to just kind of, because there's just so much that's coming to you all the time. you know,
Yeah.
and I think we get very it's easily to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you get too stuck on one thing, yeah, it's good to have like this outlook of like, there's tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, oh, I can't do this. I can't, it's like, oh my God, it's gonna take me so long to like get my body back, or all these things. And you're just like, it's okay, like all those things are okay. Like if you can do yoga, if you can't, like whatever it is, like it's just like it's okay, just like remember that tomorrow is different, and there's like, and it's going to change, and your life will be back, and you're going to be able to sleep at some point, and
Absolutely.
and you don't have to figure it all out, like, right away.
Yeah.
I think it's very overwhelming process, but I think, really savoring the journey, because it goes really fast and your babies grow really fast. And like, I feel like people tell you that all the time, like, oh, you should, and you take it for granted, and it is like that, it does happen really fast. And then you're like, I have a teenager, like, when did that happen? And then I want to like go back and be like more present. I wish I had an opportunity also to do it again, so I could do it better, and I could be more present, and I could like really fucking enjoy it and be there, as opposed to sometimes like trying to escape it, or like, being overwhelmed by it, or be like, which is hard. I don't know how to do that, but now that I look back, I'm like, oh shit, like, it does go fast, and then you're kind of like,
that's a very good point. I think I need a post-it of that.
Yeah, you need to relax, and enjoy the journey, like everything, in life, because you get so goal oriented, right? And then you're like here, and you're and then how to do that, I don't know. Like a lot of people are really good at, people are,
well, a pandemic will help.
Yeah, like mothers are full-time mothers, like all day, that's all they do. They're with the babe. Like, I don't know. I never did that, so I didn't, I had help. So I think that's incredible, like an incredible superpower.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thank you for those. I think that's wonderful. And I think I need to myself replay those. But I would love to know how someone can get in touch with you if they would like to follow you, connect with you. What's the best way? And I'll write it down in the comments underneath when I post it. But what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel, which is my name, Maria Margolies. Is this gonna go on YouTube?
Yes.
So you can find me there. Well, I have all my yoga classes and everything, Spanish, English, all kinds of yummy, amazing things. Offerings of a huge library. And then I have an Instagram, which is holistic, then X. You can write it down there. I also have a TikTok and a website. So lots of opportunities to connect.
Great. I'll put them all in the notes so people have them. Well, Maria, thank you so much for being here with us today and with sharing your journey. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. It's nice to see you. I miss you.
Nice to see you as well. I know. Maybe one day we'll reconnect somewhere. Hopefully on the beach in Montauk. That would be nice.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Bye.
Ciao.